I didn't leave it on long enough to hit the seatbelt.
What?
I didn't leave it on long enough to hit the seatbelt, but I guess we'll be all right.
Well, the seatbelt was going on while I was explaining all that, so I would assume you can't hear it.
Yeah, so basically, I posted up on that forum that I was out there with a Jeep group, and the Wiley newspaper hit me up and said there was a lady that said that the only time she got help was with a Jeep group, which is kind of like surprising and kind of like cool at the same time that it was us. But
Yeah.
I kind of thought for this entire year that nobody heard what we did, which I mean, like, I'm not trying to get like recognition or anything, but
Well, I totally know what you mean. Like, that's pretty much what I was thinking. And then as soon as I started seeing like the Jeep thing pop back up, and I was like, what is this? Like,
yeah. So the lady said that uh, a person who had lost their house had said that she saw a group of Jeeps come in and that they're the only people to help, and that's what it said verbatim that
okay.
whole night. And I mean, there was like firemen and policemen, but I mean, we kind of stayed through. But I
Bro,
guess
we were there. We had already been finished helping for like 4 or 5 hours, and the police and fire units hadn't even started yet.
well, I know the fires like the fire people in Rowlett and Garland already made rounds first time going through just to get out critically injured and other people. And luckily, even for F4 tornado, even though there was a loss, there was a lot of people saved through technology, the cell phone and stuff. But I guess we should start from the beginning of this escapade because I didn't even realize that the anniversary it had been like a year, and the support groups were just popping up with all kinds of like people trying to do documentaries and trying to figure out like what's going on. And I've been reading up a little bit. There's people just being able now to just move back in their house. So
Oh
I mean,
shit.
yeah. So like a whole like year had passed by and we've kind of like moved on, but there's a lot of scars left over. And I mean, it's understandable. You lose everything you had in a house in my head, and you're like dealing with insurance people and you're dealing with, trying to put back together your life, and every time it storms, your kid's scared. And I had totally just not even thought about any of that. So like I just saw a couple postings of lately people just now moving back in their home,
That's crazy
which is
though.
crazy. Like, yeah, so um let's start at the beginning on the night it happened. And I forget the date. It was what, December 26th, correct? The day after Christmas.
I believe so.
And we're gonna try to recount. And just for anybody who listens to this, this is our own accounts. We're not affiliated with anybody and or any group. Well, now we are, but
At the
um,
time, we weren't.
yeah, like we're regular simple people, and we don't really have like much, or we're not millionaires. So
We
um,
just wanted to help. We saw an
yeah,
opportunity
we just saw a
and took it.
neighbor and help. I'll You go first. What were you doing that night? Because I remember you were gonna go drink with some friends, but I think by the time I had called you, you were at the liquor store. So what were you doing before that?
Um, Honestly, just waiting on my buddy to get off work. He was like, "Hey man, let's go out, let's go drink," and I haven't hung out with him in a while, so I was like, "Yeah man, for sure." So I went to the liquor store, bought some liquor. I was still waiting for him to get off. I forgot what had happened. I think he was just like real tired from work or something.
How did you find out about the tornado?
Uh, Found out about the tornado all over Facebook. Like everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, like this tornado in Rowlett," and then like probably 10 minutes after I found out on Facebook, I get a call from you, and my plans had just canceled because I guess he was tired from work or whatever. So I was like, yeah, man, like I'm down to go help in Rowlett. Like I need to get my bug out bag. I need to get a bunch of first aid kits, just in case. And then
Yeah.
pretty much I just packed everything in the Jeep, met you up in Garland,
I'll
at
start.
your
I'll
place.
start where. So that's funny because that's the first time I ever heard it. I remember you were still meeting up with friends because you told them you were gonna ditch them, which is crazy because even I didn't even know what was going on. But I heard the alarms on the cell phone, but I ignored them because there's always a tornado warning, and I never cared. And then I was playing video games with my girlfriend, and we couldn't decide where we wanted to eat, so we took longer. And actually, while the tornado happened, like my lights flickered because I'm down the street from where the tornado hit in Garland at the Walmart, and
Mm-hmm.
like my lights flickered. I didn't think anything about it, and I was dumb, and I like brought both my dogs outside and just like kind of like sat outside for a minute, and I heard a lot of fire trucks moving at once, and it's not just like one. I remember vividly being like, "Wow, that is a lot of just noise. Like, what's going on?" So I tell Jen to turn on the police scanner while we didn't even change the TV yet, but we had the police scanner on, and there's so much traffic going on in Garland, and they're trying to get things together that I kind of figure out like, oh, like a tornado actually touched down in Garland, which is crazy. I didn't think it was that close to us, but then they mentioned the Walmart down the street, and I was like, man, like that's like right there. So we uh, we were trying to figure out what we are gonna eat, so we get off the video games. But I changed the channel, and Lord and behold, Fox 4 News shows on the scene with like they're right there where the tornado's path hit in Rowlett, I guess. And
Mm-hmm.
they give out like a street name and everything. I was like, dang, like they're giving out locations and the geo map, and uh Jen took too long to figure out where we're gonna eat, and I had made a conscious decision that I was just gonna go out there and try to help. And it wasn't, man, I'm gonna be honest, with anybody who listens to this, I called up Brian because I have a race car and he has a Jeep, and I knew I
So
couldn't. Yeah, I knew I couldn't bring my car out there, so it wouldn't even make it, even if there's
oh
debris
no,
everywhere. But I honestly didn't think that I would get as far as I did because I was like, well, I'm pretty sure they have like like rescue people and all these other people. Like, let's just go out there and just see what's up.
me and you both like. I remember, like before we even get into the story, I remember after everything that like me and you both kind of look at each other like, bro, that was so successful. Like I didn't think we were even gonna get in.
The odds for everything to play out the way it did, and just being aware of the situations. So Brian comes over, and I grab what I could. Water. I'm in like my full like gear, like shin pads, flashlights. Although all my flashlights are all dead, I have like no batteries. I'm almost broke. I was like struggling, like paying off bills, and we just finished Christmas, so I was like super broke. And but I had enough, and this wasn't my first go around with like a natural disaster. So I did two tours with the Home Depot, and we went to go help when Hurricane Ike hit in Galveston, and then I went to Houston. And so I kind of knew what I was getting myself into, but not really. We, by the time support comes and helps, it's like a week later. So I had never been there right when it happens fresh, but I was already gathering information off the news for like, because the news was like right here in this address, and I would just write down the address, and we just could Google it. But um, Waze had set up that there were checkpoints and police blocking the bridge over to Rowlett.
Yep.
So I remember getting in the Jeep and we didn't know where to go. So we were driving around aimlessly trying to get to this place. And every time Waze updates, it shows another roadblock or another detour that you would have to take. But somehow, when I get it in, with Bry, um, I think we had like what, a case of water. I brought my camera charged just in case, like I could
Yep.
document some stuff, and then some vests, and I just like any like little lights I had, and all I wore was my flak vest. I remember the weather was like super humid after the
Dude, it
tornado,
was
like
it was
78.
sprinkling a little bit.
Yeah, it was like 78 and like sprinkling. But we're passing through on 60. Well, I want to say 66. I don't remember the road, but there was an Aldi parking lot, like a huge grocery store, and we looked over and there's like 20 fire trucks, like 30 ambulances, like all these emergency vehicles in the parking lot, and then right
A
next
bunch
to
of Jeeps.
yeah, right next to there was a whole two rows of Jeeps, like maxed out Jeeps. None of these Jeeps were stock. All of them lifted, mud tires, to the nine. How many Jeeps would you say, Bry?
Uh, Dude, if I had to guesstimate, I would say we were probably rolling with a little over 25 Jeeps because
Nah,
I
there
just
was
remember,
more.
dude, I remember being in line behind like the first probably 8 to 10 Jeeps, being in line looking back, and I couldn't see the back of the line. Like there was well over 25 Jeeps. Like I would
I want to
say
say over
almost.
like 40, but like, because we filled up two rows of along the parking lot, and then the rest were all fire department and everything like that. But
Yeah.
but we passed it on the way. But all the fire trucks had their sirens on, which is like the weirdest thing because they're all just chilling in the parking lot. But I made Brian make a U-turn because I didn't see the Jeeps at first because it's just regular cars. All you see is the flashing lights.
Yep.
But um, after seeing all the cities, like surrounding cities fire departments there, I realized that that's their meeting point. So like people as far as Kellerton, Plano, McKinney, Anna, a lot of the fire trucks met there, and that was their like little HQ point before they go in. And
Rendezvous.
yeah, we pulled in and we noticed there were two rows of Jeeps, and we just happened to be in a Jeep, so we pulled up next to them, and then I tried to figure out who was in charge or what was going on, but I find out that collectively it was just about like I don't know how many. There was a bunch of Jeep groups. If I honestly don't know, but like if I were to guess, maybe like five or six, right?
I'd I'd say that's about fair. I would have said about five. I mean, like if there were 6 or 7, then it's probably like maybe one member from another group.
Yeah, but I mean, we just lucked into it because we had a Jeep, and then
We fit right in.
yeah, we fit right in, and then we followed them out. But it got kind of crazy because uh, as we left that rendezvous point, we were gonna go with the fire truck. Somebody in some Jeep club knew one of the Rockwall police officers that
Yep.
was kind of in charge of traffic, and they were saying that they needed a couple tow hooks and winches. So we left and went out there, but there is so many roadblocks up until you get there. Like the ordeal was the tornado. Just dealing with the mess was an ordeal, but just getting there was a whole nother ordeal even before we even touch
Yep.
touch a neighborhood. So it was
Yep.
a lot of waiting, but they had blocked the roads, and then they had officers from other counties and cities set up, and they didn't really have like too much information, and they weren't letting us go actually past anywhere on the point. So depending on which lane you were in on the way into Rowlett, they would just point like left or right, and you just had to go. So we lost a lot of Jeeps on the way, a lot of Jeeps that would have been able to help, a lot of guys willing to help. I remember being on the scanner constantly and looking on Facebook and social media. Like nobody was asking for help. They were saying stay home. Police has it under control. and stuff like that. Like, don't. It's just it's blocking the roads. Like, don't do that. But I honestly, after seeing everything on the news, I couldn't sit there and uh and just let it
Not do
happen.
anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I felt a need to go help, like in whatever way I can, whether it's just sitting in a parking lot or something. I don't know why, but maybe it was fate, but I felt like I could be a bit of an asset or do something,
I feel
anything.
I feel like the best part though was, they were saying stay home, like etc. etc. Don't worry, they got it. But as soon as they see us pull up in the Jeep Club, like, yeah, we were waiting, but it's like the officers that we did encounter were like, oh my god, yes, we could totally use the help.
Yeah,
Let me clear it first. Like that's the whole waiting part is they see us coming up and then they're like, why are all these Jeeps here?
yeah. Oh
It's
yeah.
like
So
how
like
did you get past the other checkpoints? And then they would talk to their superiors and then
we
they'd
have
be
to
like
clear it.
coming back like, oh yeah, go through.
Oh,
And then we'd get to the next checkpoint
we
and so on
probably,
and so
yeah,
forth.
and get to the next. There was so many checkpoints, but I gotta preface, every time we go to a checkpoint, we lose Jeeps.
Oh
Either
yeah.
long wait times, because we left at like 8 or 9 p.m. So we didn't touch a street till what, 12 or 1?
I would say yeah, about 11:30, 11:45.
Oh yeah, that's right. It was right before midnight. But we had been waiting a really long time at each checkpoint. But the first couple checkpoints where the officers just wanted to keep traffic moving and you go left or right. I literally told Brian like which Jeeps to follow, and we were so far in front that by fate we just had followed the right group because
Yep.
there were so many Jeeps that it looked like all these groups are dividing up on the roads because nobody knows where to go, and they're all different Jeep groups, so there's no real comm leader, and everybody has their own way of like communicating.
Communication.
Yeah,
Yep.
some Jeeps had the CBs. Some groups had walkie talkies. Me and me and Brian had walkie talkies, and we were running a police scanner, and I think we were running one more scanner, and I had my girlfriend back home, running everything to the Scanner PD guys up on Facebook. So we were just getting all kinds of intel or updates on everything. So
Hey,
um,
don't forget we like out of the 40 to 50 Jeeps, like right off the bat, lost half of them because we went one way and then they heard of I think they heard of like another entrance, and
yeah,
they went. Oh, they tried going around.
and
I never saw them
that
again.
yeah, that never worked because the lady who prompted me to start recording this one from the news people, they're saying that we were the only Jeep group allowed in. We were the only team allowed in.
I didn't see
uh,
anybody else.
no, it was just us, bro. And we'll get to the other what happened to other support. But we go through a couple checkpoints, and we wait anywhere between like an hour, hour and a half. It's a long wait time of just wasting kicking back gas, but we finally make it into Rowlett. We get into part of the neighborhood, and uh, internet is real shoddy there. It worked like for maybe like 10 or 15 minutes at a time
Yep.
because the tornado. So whenever I did have internet, I'm trying to GPS where the path that the tornado hit versus where we're at, and at the same time trying to relay that information to whoever's in there. But out of all the Jeeps, we had how many? Like
Like the ones that actually got on the street.
the ones that went in with us.
Oh man. Well, okay. I know for sure when we had. This is getting a little bit ahead. I know when we were moving the big tree, there was three with winches. Then there was two stopped in front of me. So that's six, and then I probably had another two or three behind me. So I'd say under 10, like just under 10.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I would agree with that. And I would say just a little over like a dozen people, maybe like 12 or 15.
Yeah,
Some Jeeps had
most
like
people
3 or
rode
4.
single.
Yeah, most Jeeps had like 2 people. There were like a couple that had 3 or 4, and then I remember there was a truck with us, and when you first enter into the road. Once we got cleared, we the last checkpoint was really long. The officer held us forever, but once whoever they talked to cleared it, and they were like, "Oh yeah, the jeeps are here. They're the guys who need to move like the power lines and the logs on the main road that go into the Rowlett where the
Yep.
tornado hit, because there were lots of ambulances and fire trucks just sitting to
Couldn't
the
get through.
side, and they couldn't get in because the roads were blocked.
Yep.
So even
I mean,
before we even got out of the jeep, there we already had like two or three jeeps pulling up, and we were already starting winching off stuff. But
mhm.
the logs were fine. It got kind of tricky, and there was no. It was so confusing because like there were people who were like, "No, you can't do that," and then some people were like, "Yes, you can," because the wires on the electricity poles were still hot, and
Yeah.
we didn't realize it. And we were just pulling them off just to make room, or being able to fit a fire truck through. And then we slowly would clear that, and then uh, just on the other side of an embankment, I could see like a little bit of like an electricity service crew trying to pull off a what one of those
Transformer.
yeah, it was like a transformer, and then the electricity pole fell onto a house, so they were trying to pull
Yep.
that up too. But and that was it. Like it was just us back there, and then there were like two or three police cars, but one got stuck. The path to the main neighborhood, where everybody sees the picture with the water tower from the aerial view, that's
Yeah.
where it got hit the most. So the neighborhood to get into that was blocked because a down power line was there, and the wire is like
We
literally going diagonal into the ground.
we literally started. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. We literally started 2 streets away from that water tower.
We did, yeah, we did. Clearing off the main road to get to all the other neighborhoods. But
Yep.
even on the way, like while we had dead time and while we are trying to find info, um, it was kind of crazy because you would see families just kind of like huddled up together, and they don't have anything. They would have like a painting. Some of them would have like a chair, just like real odds and ends of like stuff you would never think to have.
Yep.
If a tornado would hit my house. But then again, if that's all that they could grab or find at the moment, and that's all they had. So I had like maybe three-fourths of the case of a water, and I started passing water like what I could of my water, but with keeping some on me because I didn't know what was going to happen the rest of the night. All I knew is we finally got in and we're past the checkpoints, where the cops had closed it off, and it was still kind of dangerous. Just
Oh
going through the
yeah.
neighborhoods because even though there were people out, they're trying to get the people away because of gas leaks. So
Yep.
they were saying like at any time, uh, a gas leak could explode. It's really dark. There's no electricity, so clearing houses was kind of like a no go because they don't know how stable each house is. So one might collapse on you, and then obviously the
You also have
down power
all
lines.
the yeah. You have all the ground lines. You had like literally house roofs in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
that's when we started hitting the
cars
neighborhood. The main
cars flipped over.
Yeah.
Cars in
The main
the
street
cars
had just like
everywhere.
logs and power lines where it connected to all the other streets and neighborhoods. But once you
Yeah.
get into that neighborhood, only a Jeep could get through because I remember they had to winch off a police car who tried to get through the ditch and they got
Yep.
stuck. So
Yep.
once they pulled him out, the Jeeps just go on 4x4 mode, and we're driving literally through a partial backyard and somebody's side yard to get in the main neighborhood.
Yep.
And it literally looked like something out of a movie, like a war zone, I want to say. And they assigned like one cop to us, and then I mean, I think he had to leave like somewhere in the middle because some emergency rose up or something. They had to block off another neighborhood.
Mhm.
Um, but it went from well, we'll just clear the streets for the ambulances and fire trucks, and then as the police were leaving, they said, "Oh yeah, the firemen have checked these houses, but um, you might want to just check them again if they're open or if any windows are busted. Just kind of like peek in and just just say hi and make sure people are okay." So while the guys in the jeeps had already started getting out and we started moving in teams, they started clearing the road, and then like
Yep.
I think like three on my side and four on the other side would clear houses slowly, and then which is scary at the same time because I had never cleared houses or done anything like this before. So like even when Hurricane Ike, it was just like picking up debris and driving like huge forklifts.
Mhm.
So it was still kind of like messed up because they had like relief tents and people out there to help, and passing out MREs is like part of the daily thing. But I mean, when you're there, actually, you after the first house, it was kind of like I realized it was gonna be a heart attack because you walk into a house, it's the day after Christmas. You're not really expecting like all the windows to be blown out, but then there's food on the table still, like food on the plates, a Christmas tree's knocked over, but all the decorations are everywhere inside the house. And then, obviously toys and presents everywhere. And then you kind of think like, oh shit, like what did I get myself into? Like I'm not like you're not really qualified, but like you kind of have to like make sure everyone got out safely. Cause
I think I think what really got me is one house that we went to was 2 story.
yeah.
I remember the first floor, like Christmas decorations everywhere, and then we hear rustling in the back, and it was the house dog, just terrified.
Oh
But
yeah.
anyways, we handled that, and then
And
we
that
went up.
that dog bit me.
Yeah, I know. The dog totally bit you. Uh, but after we handled the dog situation, I remember going upstairs, and like this house was like from the outside didn't look that bad, but we only looked from the front.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I get upstairs and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go check this room. Right as I open the door, you could tell it's like a little girl's room. Like, could not
I
be
remember.
older than like 8 years old. Not older than 8. Like she was probably 5 or 6 if I
No,
had to
yeah,
guess.
they still had like frozen stuff like all over the room.
Yeah, what was left of it? I remember opening the door and like probably a foot, maybe 2 feet from the door after it's fully open, and then it just cuts off. Like everything else was ripped, but
Yeah,
you could tell it's a girl's room because it's all pink and whatnot.
yeah, I
There was
remember
no
that.
bed, there was no dresser, no nothing. Like that part of the house was just torn off.
Yeah, sometimes you open the door, it's like the whole movie deal where the room's missing, and you're just like, what the hell? And then you can
But
just see
that's what it
outside,
felt like.
and then thank God the Jeeps had LED light bars, so that
Oh
was
yeah.
the only light we had. Like I had like a shitty I didn't have a shitty flash. I had a shitty flash like headlamp that was like dying on me, and then the only LED lamp I had was just given to me for from actually Christmas from my
Mhm.
girlfriend's dad in my stocking stuffer. But going to each house, it was a different story every time.
Yep.
Sometimes we found dogs. Sometimes it'd be hard to get through the front door because of trees that knocked over or debris or somebody else's house and somebody else's front yard. So you kind of have to do a little bit of digging. And then once you get
That
in, it's like,
that one house we came in through the window.
yeah, some of them were completely gone. It was just like stepping on rubble and just making sure nobody was hurt or just laying
Yep.
there. But I just remember like each room was like a heart attack because like I didn't know what I was gonna find. Like you just don't know like till you open it, and it literally is a heart attack because I don't. It's just like, what am I going to see next? Am I going to find a body? Am I going to find somebody alive? Am I going to find a family? Am I going to find somebody's dog deeply hurt? Um,
Mhm.
but we cleared most of that neighborhood from the directional path up until It was past the water tower on the neighborhood to where the house on the right was completely in the street, and that's where we got stuck. And the guys had been like shoveling and getting rid of stuff and just kind of pushing off to the side to make room for on the street, and we it looked spick and span. Like it'd be crazy because everything looks like crap, and then cars are busted up and stuff like that. But the guys did like a really good job of like really clearing the street, making sure nails aren't in the road. Not just for the jeeps, but for the emergency vehicles coming through, making sure there's enough room for emergency vehicles to get through. But like we just stopped in our tracks and just kind of like stared for a minute about the house in the middle of the street. It's like
It
literally,
literally
yeah,
it looked like the house literally looked like the best way I could put it is chocolate in the microwave.
yeah.
It just kind of just it looks like it just melted all into the street.
And then
Foundation, like you could follow the foundation, and then like a trail of the wall all the way to the street until it's just a big roof.
yeah, and I just know there was like panels of roofs on top of the house, just kind of broken up. So this is the only reason I knew it was a house, and just the trail it left. But the house before that one was in the middle of the street. Me and Brian and I walked into the house. We were covering left side, and it was just me and him at this house. But the stairs had spread, so you kind of had to jump, as you're escalating up into the second floor. And
Mm-hmm.
then from there, there was that little girl's room, and then a kid's room. It looked like a teenager who had a computer set up, but it was just like the windows were busted. Just I don't know how to explain. It was just crazy. Like a whole wall is just missing, and
It was one of those that like you could see it in a movie, you could see
yeah,
it, and we could tell you about it, but it's one of those that literally you have to just tell people like, man, you just had to be there to experience this.
yeah. We tried to we tried to be respectful of people's houses because some of them were intact, or maybe it's just the windows that were just busted. But we also tried to find like supplies, stuff that we could use to like tie off on people's doorknobs to let other people know who come after us that we had cleared the house or whatever. Um, the little girl's room really got to me with the frozen stuff. I just my I have a niece, so it just kind of like really stuck with me in a bad taste. But by the time me and Bry finished that house and went back outside, uh, they were like everybody had stopped because of the house in the middle of the street, and I asked everybody why. They're like, well, literally, it's so much stuff. Like it'd be
Yep.
hard to pull out, and um, I didn't want to stop, so I just started picking up debris little by little, and everyone's kind of like looking at me crazy because I'm literally trying to pick up house, but I think Brian sees me, so he starts helping me, and he doesn't even question it. I'm like, well, if
We were
they,
just going at it, man.
yeah, if they need, look, if somebody needs help on the other side of this house, and they can't get a crew out there, then we're gonna make it happen. Or we were just putting debris, but we were also like we were trying to clear the sidewalk too, thinking maybe if a fire truck or ambulance can off road just a little bit. So we were pushing debris even further on the side, just enough to even just get a jeep or something through. But
Yep.
we found our first survivors, and it was a family, and everybody was doing okay. It was on the other side of the debris, on on Brian and I side, and from then on, it pretty much looked like semi okay, as far as damage wise. But it was just kind of relief because we had gone through almost the entire night. Once we went through the last checkpoint without seeing anybody other than police and fire.
In
So
all honesty, like when we did find the first family, it was like what 3:30 in the morning.
I don't even remember, to be honest.
It, I remember that when we finally stopped, it was about I want to say about 7 in the morning because I remember the sun was already starting to come up.
Yeah, I remember. We were
But
just pulling out at like 5 or 5:30. You had to go to Galveston to move the next day, so we couldn't stay
yeah,
any
yeah.
longer
Oh,
than we
okay,
had
yeah.
to.
My my buddy's girlfriend just graduated medical school, and she was moving back until she does her like basically her final stuff.
Hmm.
Her board exam, that's what it's called. Before she does her board, she was moving back home for a bit so she can study. So I was gonna go to Galveston and help them move. So I had to be up. I had to literally leave and drive to Galveston by by myself
Yeah, with no
at like
sleep.
10, and we finished at like 7
Yeah,
because
I
we found our first family, first person alive, first person to actually talk to
I want
the
to
whole time we've
say
been
I
out
want to
there,
say
like
it was.
3.
I know you saying three, but I think it was two because I remember going to the elementary school around like 2:30. I want to say like I don't like it's been a year, but I'm almost pretty sure it was before three, bro.
I would say
Not to call
then,
you out.
well, I'd say then between 2 and 3, like I said, like you
Okay,
said, it's been about a year.
okay. So we never finished clearing the debris of the house. There's just way too much. Like we would have needed a forklift, but we gave it a good college try. A policeman uh, then comes up to the Jeep group and he says, "Hey, the guys that are clearing houses, they're getting a group together, getting ready to clear houses. They're having a meeting at the elementary school. So the local elementary school in the neighborhood behind them had set up a base out there, and since I had already been checking houses, and I told them I had experience in disaster relief, they sent me and Brian over there, and they wanted to send the Jeep group to uh, another neighborhood that had like debris. It was like more debris, and then they were like, "Yeah, we're trying to get emergency vehicles through this neighborhood, but there's like a Frito Lay truck." So we follow them to find out which spot they go to, but immediately when they pull up, we leave. Brian and I leave to go to the elementary school, and it takes. I mean, we're not from there, like Rowlett or any of these neighborhoods, and we didn't have internet, so it took like a minute for us to like figure out where we were going. And then so we go up to elementary school, and Brian and I are just like wild eyed because they have all kinds of relief teams set up at this elementary school. There's just like rows and rows. All the guys from Aldi are like all over here at this elementary school, and even have like a Rowlett has their own like disaster relief group set up. So people were meeting there. So I'm just seeing, fresh faces, fresh people. And, here comes Brian and I rolling up in the Jeep. Jeep's dirty. We're dirty. We got soot and fiberglass all over us. My face is dirty. We've been working with debris and going through houses. Um, it's just kind of like a whirlwind of a change. Um, yeah, no,
Yeah,
a
I
little
completely agree.
a little bit perturbed that here's all this help and nothing's happening. But I think they had decided that they couldn't do anything till the morning when daybreak comes. And
Yeah,
so from what I gathered from the guys that check in at the front of the school, the Jeep group was there to for immediate help, and we were there to just straight help until um those guys came in, like in the real cavalry came in. So, because I saw guys in like full digi camo and brand new axes and stuff like that. Uh, and then I recharged. Well, we had like two other guys in the jeep with us, right? Or we had the truck follow us. I can't even remember.
We only had the two guys in the Jeep with us while we were doing the roof one because since we kept inching forward, we just told them we're like, hey man, this is real bad right here. Like, just leave your Jeep here and we'll scoot up in our Jeep.
Oh.
So that's when we were doing the clearing the houses. We had two guys with us.
Oh, okay.
That's
So
why we
it
had
was just
four on
me
our
and you
side.
at the elementary school.
At the elementary school, um, I think we only had one dude with us at the time. No, it was two. That's right. Because we had one, and then on our way there, another dude stopped us,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Hey, man, where are y'all headed out?" And we're like, "We'll be right back. You know, we're going over here to etc. etc." And he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you mind if I come with you?" That's right. We did
Yeah.
that too.
And
Cause
he was actually a victim helping. I remember
yeah,
he worked at Walmart, the local Walmart, and his house got hit by the tornado, but he was still helping other people. But we had pulled up all dirty and looking like crap, and everybody's brand new, smiling, like chilling. We're like, really, where's the help? But I understand. There were too many gas leaks, and the gas companies were trying to shut them down as fast as they could. So they can send relief crews, but they weren't gonna send relief crews out in the dark. It was just way too dangerous. So so they had to wait till the sun came up. So the Jeep group that was there, we were supposed to have like all 50 of us there. We only had a couple of us. We were holding it down, and apparently we were the only Jeep group that got through because there's so many multiple commands and people taking over and government agencies, so it was really hard to tell who was calling the shots. And then you have the disaster relief group from Rowlett, you know, the record group. So we sat around, rested for a minute. I realized there wasn't going to be a meeting for the guys that were going to clear houses till the morning, and I didn't want to wait because I felt like I could be helping my Jeep group out there. And we had passed through already, so the cops at checkpoints closing down the streets already knew us, so it
yep.
was a lot easier to pass through. But Chick-fil-A had come. So, oh, Wiley newspaper. If you find the Chick-fil-A that was sending Chick-fil-A like all weekend, like seriously, I'll replay this. Tell them thank you so much. Um, even the guy handing out the sandwiches was one of the volunteers for the Rowlett disaster group. He gave me a couple because he knew I said I was going back out there, and I was like looking at these guys in like full digi gear, and they had like the full. You remember them? They had like special ops helmets and stuff like that,
Yeah, there were
and
three
then
guys.
a brand
Like,
new axe that had never been used. I'm not here to talk shit. It was just like like y'all gonna do something today, like with all this gear. Like, I just didn't think an axe would be needed, because these are still people's homes. People have to come home back to it, you know. They looked like they were ready to go Rambo on everything, and I was like, man, like we hadn't done none of that. So we go back to our Jeep group, but they give us a couple more sandwiches, and it was so warm and good because the temperature dropped. By the time we moved to the next neighborhood with the Jeeps, the temperature had dropped from 78 to, what was it, 50? I can't even remember. I just knew it was freaking cold, and it started raining. You
I
remember?
honestly don't remember, man.
It was. I know it was super cold because I had like a flak vest and a t-shirt. And I was like freezing by the time we got back from the school. But by the time
Yeah,
we had gotten through the school, there was some wires that needed to be cut to get some Jeeps through because only one Jeep could get through at one time. but you brought bolt cutters, so I cleared that, and then the other jeeps came through, and then they put like a 3 winch system on this Frito Lay truck and just went to town, just moving that aside. And that's when I found our first victim that needed evac, and it was a guy in a wheelchair. And I started clearing houses to the left. Another group started clearing houses to the right, and then like everything was going all right. And then I just got really cold. I had picked up a jacket that was like extra medium, like from the ground. It was like outside of a house, but it had like fur on the inside. But I remember it was like super tight. I barely fit it, but I put that on and then put my flak vest back over because I was like pretty cold. Hey guys, hey, calm down, guys. Sorry, I just bought a puppy, but so we did that. We started clearing houses, and then I tried to get to this house, and the tree was in the way of the front door, and we were just kind of like squeezing our way through, but there was no way to squeeze our asses through while the jeeps were moving this Frito Lay truck. And that's when I almost went through the window of this house, and I realized there was somebody in the dark in there. And I called Bry over, and a light shined, and I realized it was a guy in a wheelchair, and he said he was okay,
Yep.
but he wasn't. And then like it was, he couldn't really. I could. It was like talking like really broken English, but eventually after we removed the Frito Lay truck, because there was no way for any vehicles to get through to this house without moving the Frito Lay truck. So once they had moved that, um, some some ambulance came right behind us with some firemen, and they were like, "Hey, there's a guy stuck in here. We have no idea which house it is." Um, and I said, "Hey, I know where he is. He's in a wheelchair. He's out there." And then that's when we started beginning to start pulling them out. But they had to bring in like a couple, this like mini jaws of life to cut out the window to get this
Yep.
guy out with the wheelchair. And that was like pretty much our good deed for the day. No, like we were clearing
Yeah.
debris and stuff like that, and then I guess like one of the guys on the other side, I guess they were like busting through doors because some of the doors on some of these houses were kind of tight, and
Some
so
of them are even still locked.
yeah, some of them were still locked, but like some of them needed like it was unlocked, but the weight and the infrastructure had shifted that the gaps on the doors were just tight. So some of them
Yeah.
you would have to like hit up with your shoulder or kick in, but unless I really had to, I didn't. But somebody on the other side just started kicking through doors because it was just starting to get really rough on that side, and I guess he kicked the wrong door, and here comes a guy really pissed because the fireman had come through like twice already, and then here comes us, and he was just trying to get some sleep, and then he opens the door, and all of a sudden it's dark in this neighborhood. There's flashes of beams of light from coming from all the jeeps, and here's this guy who's not dressed like a police officer trying to search through, but he's super angry, and things escalate between him and our group. But we had a police escort with us from the Dallas SWAT. I remember because I see the badge, but
Yep.
he tries to talk him down, but it escalates. So like but I get it. Like people, there's looters outside, and there's a kick on the door. You don't know what to think, you know. Like sooner or later, a gun in the face is just like what happens. like like I'd be on the fritz too. I get it.
Yeah. I remember they said they're like, well, we knocked for a while, and then no one unanswered, so we decided to enter, and I was like, okay, why did you enter? Like, did you try the windows? Did you see if anybody was in there? No.
Yeah.
You should have done that first, and then
I think
the guy was mad.
yeah, I made it pretty clear to Bride to make sure we yell throughout the entire house. That we were entering and we're friendly, because when you clear houses, you never know what's gonna happen. But we wrap up the night pretty late, was like 5 or 6 in the morning. And the only thing we had was like water and like a couple Chick-fil-A sandwiches. So we kind of like spread around. But
I remember specifically it was like six. I think it was like 6:47. I got it right.
yeah,
But it was basically 7 o'clock in the morning because I remember looking and I'm like, by the time I get home, I'm gonna have like 2.5 hours of sleep, and I have to drive to Galveston.
yeah. I just remember by the time we had called it quits, we already made a path to the cul-de-sac, but there was like 2 houses in the middle of the street, and it was like almost impossible. So we just kind of stopped there. But now that the sun was almost going to come up, it made the way for the guys who were fresh waiting at the elementary school to come on through. And then obviously, I just remember we were leaving, and there's still fireman crews running some kind of like gas meter to check for gas leaks.
Yep.
On the same spot we were just working at, which is crazy because I was just like, man, really? Like, anything can happen?
Nothing happened.
Oh, yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, like other than that, the Jeep group pretty much took us under their wing and just like, yeah, they're part of us, and then we just met everybody while we're doing this.
Yeah.
Slowly meeting people, slowly like obviously helping out as much as possible.
We met up. We went back up to the elementary school afterward to see if there was anything else we could do, possibly.
They said no.
Nope. And we were like, all right, well, we're gonna go. But I just remember like kind of like the support groups and stuff. They kind of like have their own deal, or I don't know how they get paid or what was it, but they were like, I was like, pretty nice and courteous, like, hey, like, you have any supplies you could spare? Like, I want to go out there and keep going. And everyone's like looking at me weird, so.
They handed us a pamphlet.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, you guys going out there soon? And they're like, yeah, just waiting on the big wigs to tell us. I'm like, no, you don't just help a neighbor now. Like, just help any neighbor in need. Or start transporting families to the elementary, or I don't know. Like, it was, yeah, anything. But I think the police already had that under control for the most part.
They literally had a like, shoot, I want to say like a 20-foot trailer, like just filled to the brim of like
supplies. Yeah. I was like, can I just have like some scissors?
And they handed us a pamphlet, like, here you go, and we're like,
all right.
Is this it? And
as we're
like,
covered.
well, that's all we can give you. And I was like,
as we're covered in dirt and soot. Guys, hey, chill. Anyway, so we leave, and then I think we go to the gas station as we're leaving, and I just kind of sit on top of some waters and just kind of reflect over everything. But even the cashier is just like, oh man, looks like you had a rough day, And I was like, yeah, something like that. And then I didn't even bother to tell him. It was just kind of hard to explain the last, I don't know, almost 12 hours, 10 hours, 11 hours, I don't know. Like, time was none of essence. I took a couple pictures on my phone. Do you have any pictures, Bri?
I might still have some pictures. I know for sure I have some on my Facebook. We only had time and like to really take like maybe 2-3 pictures, honestly.
Yeah, like I honestly, I had some pictures on my phone. I never took my camera out because it started raining, and then
I have one.
Yeah, I think we were just trying to help. We were trying to help as much as we could, so documenting anything was out of the question.
I have one had the Jeep group. It's my Jeep and then a few Jeeps. This is what I was talking about. It's my Jeep, two Jeeps in front of me, and then you can't really see it, but there's three Jeeps up there taking the big tree that was in the middle.
Yeah. Well, I know the lady wanted all our pictures or whatever, so we can try to give that.
I'll text it to you right now.
All right. Well, let's look at what the questions are and see if we missed anything. But yeah, that was pretty much our experience overall. Pretty satisfying in my heart to help. I felt like I I had trouble sleeping for the next 2 weeks, the after effects, and my girlfriend and everybody thought I was crazy because I slept for maybe like a couple hours. I woke up in the morning. I started giving away clothes and shoes to the nearest spot I could. I wanted to go back out there again. Yeah, I
I found some stuff.
yeah I was on I was on the police scanner like constantly, just hearing about looters and stuff like that. Um, but for like the whole next week, like I just didn't get any sleep. I just wanted to help. I kept making runs till like midnight at churches and just trying to help out. Like if there was anything I could have done, like I was out there doing it. So I was like doing runs, like helping out with water. I know a couple of the Jeep groups dropped off sweaters and sleeping bags a couple times. But I was totally enthused. Like my my girlfriend saw me giving away stuff like, you know, like stuff I would never thought of. Yeah.
The other Jeep groups also, I remember after looking it up, but the other Jeep groups, the one that split off with us,
Yeah.
a lot of them were actually giving rides to people to, I forgot where it was, but I remember they set up like an actual area. It's like if you were devastated by the tornado, like you can come here and we have like places and stuff for you
Oh, that's cool.
to sleep. They were actually shuttling them. The other Jeep group was, but
But it was
as
like
far as the
out. It was like outside the containment, right?
yeah, as far as the questions though, it's the only ones I didn't remember us answering is what's the name of the Jeep group and what's the purpose of the
Well,
group.
let's go through each question just to
That's the
make
first
sure.
one.
So the Jeep group that we happened to be with was the Chisholm Jeep group, and I know
Chisholm Trail.
yeah, Chisholm Trail Jeep group, and I still keep up with them every now and then, but I think they do stuff like that all the time. Like when it snows in Dallas, they'll be out on like 182 or 35, like pulling cars out with their winches, and then
They also did a fundraiser for those officers that were shot in downtown Dallas.
yeah, which was really cool. They're always doing charity stuff, but I remember there were like two Jeeps that made it through with us who weren't part of the group.
Yeah.
They just happened to pick the right one. But it's crazy to think about all the factors that had to happen for us to get actually inside before any of this would happen. And,
Oh yeah.
you know, like just even down to my girlfriend not making a dinner decision in time. And I was like, you know what? No, I think I'm just going to go help, you know? And then
Yeah.
how many members of the group responded after the tornado last year? I think there was a lot because the outpour support, not only the Jeep group, but I found out there was a lot of support forums for people helping, and I had joined a couple of them, including ones that didn't get federal aid out in Farmers Branch in Nevada. So I joined them, and they actually had heavy machinery and they had guys to operate. Um, I never made it out there with them, but I always kept up with their chats. So I jumped between the police scanner and then them for like a whole 2 weeks. Um, so there was a couple of groups that responded, and they always met at Walmart down the street.
Yep.
So that was the point. How did the group mobilize to know exactly where to help? Did anyone provide direction? I want to say no. It was everything was by chance. I guess like the Jeep groups got together and they kind of like did their own little secret chat, but we didn't have anything like that. on
Yeah.
our side, other than the police scanners. Um, what did exactly did all you all do?
I'm pretty sure we covered
Yeah, we
that.
covered that, and then how many hours do you think the group or groups helps? Like, I don't know. In that one night, like, I don't think anybody slept, and then I don't know. I was on a bender for about
Dude,
a week. Like, I don't know what to tell y'all.
I want to say that one night it was anywhere between like 8 to 10 hours, like straight, like from getting in, from trying to get in, all the way up to like when after we finished at the school and we're like, all right, guys, well, I guess we're heading out. There's nothing else to do, and we got a pamphlet. It was probably about anywhere between 8 to 10 hours worth of work, like just
Yeah, I
out
mean
there doing
overnight,
things.
but like I was out there all weekend, and then I would try to go there during the work week every now and then. So like I think time and volunteers are relevant. Um, it's
Yeah.
just I saw gaps that needed to fill. I tried to fill them as best as I could. Is there
Memorable
any
moments.
memorable moments you like to share?
I I pretty much said mine. Mine was definitely that little girl's room. I just like right as I opened it up, and I was like, God, I hope they got out.
We saved like a couple bulldogs.
Yep.
I say we saved that man, and it felt good being the point man to show the firemen where to go. Um, as far as like memorable, uh, like bad memorable, like the little girl's room haunted me for like 2 weeks. I couldn't sleep. Like I'd be waking up in the middle of the night, and then during work or the work week, I'd be replaying in my head like, is there anything I could have done then? Is there anything I could do now more? Just I was kind of haunted. I almost thought about going to counseling, and I'm not the type of guy to do anything like that, but it definitely did cross my mind for a minute that I might have to.
Did you need a safe space?
Yeah, I just felt stupid because it was just one night, of like,
Yeah.
but like I was getting like 3 4 hours of sleep, and then I'd go out and do a water run or something like that. So um, like my whole sleep is turned off, and I was super tired, but I just couldn't stop. But every time I close my eyes to even sleep, it'd just be like the little girl's room, like all over again. So I don't know, like that was probably the memorable. Like even though it was bad, but that's the most I remember about it. Just even like when when you guys and Wiley News first contacted me, I just kind of felt a creep over me, and then I kind of was just going over the questions in my head, and I was like, man, like I'm not even sure I could tell this story, so I just thought I would call Brian and record it once and for all. So then we always
Yeah.
have it, and then maybe we can share a story because it just feels kind of weird to see it in words and then try to explain it because it's kind of like a loaded gun when you try to answer these because I can give you like a 2 to 3 answer, like sentence answer, but it's not enough information to suffice. So I thought
Oh yeah.
if I call Brian and we throw our story out there, then maybe it might be a little bit better. I don't know. We probably should have structured it or got together, but I just thought if we told the story point blank, then that's something we could go on.
I
So
mean, it is midnight, so I mean, you can't really expect us to structure it
yeah.
that well.
Um, had your group ever helped out in a situation like this before? If so, when and where? No. Like I had never actually I hadn't even hung out with Brian before that, like probably in like a year.
Yep.
At a we were at a birthday party and that was it. So like I I just knew a guy with a Jeep and we kind of kept in touch with each other on Facebook and I just called him up and was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And like, this is what I want to do. Like,
I
can I
do
make this
remember
happen?
when you did hit me up though. Like you were like, "Hey man, so this is going down. Da, 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 can you help?" And I just remember once I was like, "Oh yeah, dude, I'm totally down." I just remember you responding like, really? Like,
Yeah,
you couldn't believe it. You're like, are you serious? Like, I'm not
yeah.
joking. And I was like,
Well,
yeah, I'm not joking.
and I kind of told you on over the phone, like I'm not like I don't even know where to go or what to do, but like we'll just figure it out on the way. So just the amount of luck we had on our side. But now I think we have like two or three other guys in our group now. And I've been like slowly building like just like a disaster kind of like relief deal to where next time it happens, you can just show up in the Jeep, we can throw everything in and just go. Um,
Yeah.
and then, better stuff like ribbons to hang on the doorknobs to clear houses. And then, obviously, we'll buy a pack of water. All my flashlights all have batteries, stuff like that in the
I have
future.
that already.
Yeah. If anyone would like to join your group, how could they do that? And like, I don't
Social
suggest.
media, man.
I suggest not joining a group and just listening to what the police say, because
I mean,
there was a
in
lot of
all honesty,
traffic.
well, okay. As far as the question goes, like, if anyone would like to join the group, then like more power to you. You know that's your own decision. You know, you can go on social media and just start going out to the events, meeting people, and then like, you know, you just got to be social about it, and then you're good.
Well, Rowlett has their
But
whole disaster relief group, so you can always join them. Like honestly, like we're just regular people. Like we just wanted to help a neighbor. We weren't like some kind of like Superman. We're not like adrenaline junkies or anything like that.
no,
Um,
I totally get it. I'm just saying, as far as the question, like,
yeah.
you could join the group, but personally, like me and you wise, personally, we kind of like lone wolf.
Yeah.
We'd rather lone wolf it. Like, you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
I think that's like how we put it, but like I just in case if anything ever happens again, I want to be prepared and I want to be able to help more and do more what I did last time. So I just kind of keep that in the back of my head. But
Yeah.
they have many like forums on Facebook, and then you can also join the disaster relief group in Rowlett if you're into that kind of stuff. But usually these kind of people obviously don't follow directions because even though they said don't come out, like we still did, and then. But I just remember the traffic was horrible too, and then people were treating like the victims like a circus. It kind of enraged me a little bit. Like let's take a picture of all this destruction. Like that's somebody's house, that's somebody's life. And it's just like people can't even go home to go grab stuff because of traffic and people just rubbernecking pretty much in their car. Um, Anything else you would like to add that I didn't ask?
Nothing that I don't think we didn't cover.
I just want to say the city of Garland and Rowlett are resilient. Um, I would like to point out that it's nobody's fault for not having machinery or anything out, that we had to use the Jeeps, because there were city workers and stuff, but it was Christmas, so a lot of like firemen and city workers were on vacation, and or all the machines were put up and everything, and there was no sign of bad weather, so it totally took them by literally storm,
Well, it's
to
also
get
one of
things
those
going.
things you got to think about. Like, not only that, but a lot of people. I mean, obviously, we weren't as informed as some people were, but you had the electric lines, you had you had gas, and et cetera, that needed to be turned off first. That people were waiting on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and waiting for natural daylight, obviously. Just
Yeah.
walking around aimlessly in the dark is not probably the best idea, I guess. Yeah, but
I mean, yeah, but at the same time, you know, I mean, that's what we could do at the time, so we went with it.
yeah, so that's basically our recording. I'm gonna type this and get this in, but I just want to record ours because we've never really sat down and really talked about it uh since in a year. But
Since the day.
yeah, we really haven't talked about it much. But I'm really proud of what Brian and I did, and to be honest, like I'm not trying to grab any glory, but it's kind of nice knowing that there are some people who pointed us out and saying that we were the only group out there helping the night, and it's a great feeling to be recognized, especially after all this time, because I thought we weren't. So kind of unsung hero ish, and then that's how I like it. So, all right. Well, thank you, Bry. Thank you so much, man,
Yes,
for
sir.
doing
It
this
was good
project
talking
with
to you
me.
again.
It's good. I'll catch you here. We're gonna do a podcast show pretty soon. So,
All right, bud.
all right,
Sounds
man.
good.
Thank you so much, man.